Welcome to a very special edition of Let's Play TNA 2016. The reason why it is special is because for the first time this year I actually sat down and booked Explosion, and I'm going to give you a glimpse of what's been happening on the B show this year thus far. As we head to the pre-show match tonight, as Homicide goes up against Andrew Everett on the pre-show, and Homicide gets his win back after losing to Tigre Uno at the most recent One Night Only in February. Now we head to the opening match of the night, as Kyle O'Reilly gets the win in his TNA wrestling debut over Brent Albright, in a solid match to kick off this episode of Explosion. And now we move on as the Prodigy comes to the ring, and very similar to his vignettes, talks about how he was born to be in the ring, how he was born to do what he's doing, and how he will take TNA by storm, unlike anyone before him. And that's why he's issuing an open challenge to anybody back there to come to the ring and try and beat someone who is born and bred to be in this ring and is obviously better than you. And shockingly, the person who comes out to accept the Prodigy's challenge is the littlest lumberjack, Grizzly Redwood. And Grizz, this is not the start of Grizzly Redwood's tenure in TNA. This is his debut, sort of, but he's on a one-night only contract, as I made a mistake bringing the Prodigy right in against jobbers in the company. I know his debut was against Brent Albright, but you get more time if you make him versus locals first to build him up before you start, because then I can thrust him right into a feud instead of having to build him up with the guys in the company. I can make him feud with a lower card guy in the company. Who knows? So that's why the Prodigy is now going to start facing local talent instead of contracted talent. And also, that's why you're not going to see the Prodigy on Impact, and you're instead going to see him on Explosion. The next match sees Awesome Kong go up against Brooke in a solid match, and a match that actually probably could have main evented this B-show, this week's episode. But either way, Kong gets the win over Brooke. And now we head backstage as DJZ and Jesse are discussing, in a way, their shortcomings over the last couple of weeks, and they're approached by their former trios, their former friend and former partner, Rob Echoes, who calls both of them jokes and says that the best thing he did for his career is leave you two behind, because those glasses you have on, DJ, might as well have been goggles, because you were blinded, and you blinded us to see what was really going on in this company. And what's really going on in this company is that names like Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy, they're holding us back. It isn't up to us to be content with what we have. We need to be hungry for what we can have, and if we don't get it, we need to take it. And that's what I'm doing. So this is your opportunity to come and join the winning team. Rob, why would we join you after you just insulted us, saying that the best thing you did for your career was leaving us behind? Why would we do that? You may be on the top now, but your brain still on the bottom. Either that or you left it behind when you left us to join them. And Jesse and DJ walk out of the camera shot as we move to the next match and come back to the ring as the new tag team, the Flyer and the Technician, team up against Milk Chocolate. And the Technician gets the win, but it was the Flyer who saved the match pretty much because of his in-ring performance, being a 44 in-ring performance, and he was leaps and bounds ahead of the other guys in the ring as the challengers, Milk Chocolate, got 23 and 22 respectively, and his partner, the Technician, got a 30. So you can tell who the better of the two are. Who's under the mask? I don't know, to be honest with you, and I'd like to keep it that way. I will say this, that I think one of them are Brian Kendrick. I don't know who. But either way, now we move to the next match, the next segment rather, and that is Mr. Anderson, and he's calling out Tyrus. Tyrus makes his way out to the ring. The two of them have a heated confrontation and exchange words as Anderson basically says he's done playing games and he wants Tyrus in the ring right here, right now. Because if Tyrus wants his belt, then he has to beat him for it. And Tyrus makes his way down. You could feel the tension developing between these two as they eventually come to blows. But before anything bad could happen, but before an all-out Donnybrook happens, between Anderson and Tyrus, security swarms the ring to break them up and separate them. As things continue to simmer between Tyrus and Mr. Anderson. And now we hit up the main event as Mandrews goes up against Brian Myers, and Brian Myers gets the victory over Mandrews in a tainted fashion. But I was right. After seeing the rating, I wish Kong and Brooke main evented instead of Mandrews and whatever the other guy's name is, Brian Myers. The best loading screen I've seen in quite a while, as Emma is very easy on the eyes. Well, I guess while we wait for it to load, I can say that the reasoning behind bringing an explosion this week too is just to change things up, because I'm noticing I know that there's a repetition to this series. I know that, there isn't much to this series other than me coming in, turning on the camera, recording, showing things up, blah 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 blah. So I wanted to change things up and give a fresh look on the series, or a different perspective, because I've never booked like this. Also, let's check out what they did on SmackDown, as Cena and Rusev main evented, and Ambrose defeated Eric Rowan, Dolph defeated Fandango, Miz defeated Xavier. Not a bad show for SmackDown. So Andrew Everett is gone. The Prodigy's contract's expiring. Yes, this is also the other reason why I did this is just to, I don't want to say pull behind the camera, because that's what Inside TNA was, but the Inside TNA thing was more about non-TNA wrestlers than TNA wrestlers. But, you know, me doing this shows you who, if you couldn't tell by the picture who the Prodigy was. Am I going to pull back everything? No, because there has to be some mystery, in my opinion. That also means that Marshall's contract will be up soon too, and very likely that John Silver's contract will be up in the not too distant future also. Or John Silver's contract. No. Why did I bring him in? Road agent? Yeah, road agent. I guess I needed a road agent. Just to give you a glimpse into who I'm bringing in, the only reason why I'm showing you that Adam Cole's coming in is because it's not like I was going to put him in. It's not like I was going to give him a mask and put him under a mask when he came in. Because I feel as though it's unnecessary to do that. Because Adam Cole has done wonders for himself on the indies over the last couple years, and him coming into TNA would only help TNA and help boost the TNA, the TNA name, and help TNA find its identity with people like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. I actually don't know that I brought in Bobby Fish, to be honest with you. It doesn't really matter. That's right. Bobby Fish and Brian Kendrick are the technician and the flyer. That's who they are. I put them on their masks because I can make them do that gimmick for a while, unmask them, and then book them with, I can unmask Bobby Fish and book him with Kyle O'Reilly if I'm tired of having Kyle be a singles wrestler, So, yeah. Wow, that's a lot of companies. Sad part is it's just one, I think. World Wonder Rising Stardom. Is that... Oh. Is that a company? Yep. World Wonder Rising Stardom. Apparently they're real, too. I've never heard of them. Let me know down in the comments, and let me know down in the comment section below if you've heard of companies like Capital City Combat and DDT, Dramatic Dream Team, and Ice Ribbon Wrestling, which is based in Japan. Let me know that in the comment section below if you've heard of some of these companies. Wow, what's up with all these people's contracts coming up? Rocky Santiago, Jody Christopherson. Yes, it's that Jody Christopherson. I say that acting like anybody who would actually know who he is, even under the name Garrett Dillon, which I don't think anybody actually recognizes, even though he was in NXT. It was the early days of NXT before it really started getting popular. Meaning the early days of the WWE Network, when everybody kept thinking that the network would be a failure. We are in the Soyuz Center in the Midwest for this week's episode of Impact. Let's check some things out. Davey and Eddie, Tigre Uno. as far as long-term direction goes, there really isn't long-term direction for the tag team titles, or the X Division title, or the Knockouts title. And though some of you may be saying, oh, that's unfortunate because, for this reason, I mean, you'd be right. That is unfortunate that I don't have long-term plans. But I just don't think it's necessary to have long-term plans in this, and I should just book as I go. Yeah. After, 2 months of booking them strong, I would think you guys would be surprised to actually see them come up short. Which, I can honestly tell you, this is probably going to be Hoyt and Harry's first loss, or second loss, because they just lost to Eddie and Davey at champion versus champion. But it will be their second loss since joining TNA Wrestling. And I will also say this, that the open challenge that had been going on over the last couple weeks with Mr. Anderson putting on his title, putting his title on the line, is over, with the fact that he actually has a challenger in Tyrus for the next pay-per-view. Now it's just a question of who will be challenging the world champion Kurt Angle for the title after Kurt dispatched the challenge of Lashley, and also defeated Bobby Roode for the TNA World Heavyweight title to win his 7th TNA title. I am aware that originally, I believe Matt Hardy was the one who won the TNA title, but I'm going in a different direction because, the point of this is to stabilize the company. And I don't think stabilizing the company is going to come by putting it on an unstable champion. And I think that the most, stable choice and the safest choice to hold the TNA title is the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. Because they yelled at me last time, or earlier in the video they yelled at me for not putting enough women on the show. I'll put more women on the show. But I hope they're not going to yell at me for doing heel versus heel, because it's Velvet Sky going up against Marty Bell. Who are we going to bring in today? Big Andy? Maybe Daniel Pewter. Or John Damer. Mind you, some of these people are imported from a different database, I believe. I'm not sure if I did this or did that in this database too or not, but I've done it in basically every other database I have, so I don't know why I wouldn't have done it in this one too. Hey, Big Rob. Sorry, I'm just checking out who could come in. Scott Wright, Shark Boy. Wow, it's unfortunate that I didn't keep the Mr. Anderson Open Challenge going, because now would be a perfect time to have Shark Boy and and or Big Rob, and or Salvatore Renaro, who I believe was in TNA in the early days, come in, as the TNA original, making their return. Not exactly what I want to see, Sonny. I mean, not exactly who I want to see. No offense to Sonny, of course. She's just not my favorite woman. Because I'm looking for a woman wrestler, not a manager. If I was looking for a manager, I'd go for Sonny. Don't you worry, I'm going to use both these people. I'm kind of surprised that they put Brian Lee in this. I didn't even know Brian Lee was an active wrestler. And if we're talking about things I didn't know that the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Jax Dane, was 36 years old. This is who I was looking for. Alrighty then. This is going to be like an episode of Monday Night Raw. The new Monday Night Raw, of course. Okay, so I painted myself in a corner. So instead of that, we're going to do this. Instead of what I wrote, or what I have down already as the women's match, I'm going to change it and make it this women's match instead. With the Dollhouse going up against Jamie Jamison and Renya Pink. Where is the other member of the Dollhouse? Mia Yim got injured at an independent show, at a secondary company's independent show, unfortunately for me, which is why I think eventually, which is why I actually signed Mia Yim to a written contract where she can only work for me now, and no longer can she work for the independent companies. Actually, I mean, not that it really mattered. Oh, wow. I was gonna say that Jimmy Rave could probably be a mid-carder, but I thought Jimmy actually still had popularity. But I was wrong. So instead of Anderson going up against the TNA original, that's going to be up to Tigre Uno. You know what? I'm changing my mind again. It's going to be a triple threat match instead. Which, instead of wasting the match, I am going to book a match. It will not be for the X Division title, don't you worry. As Drew Galloway, a member of, in many ways, the new breed of TNA, but also, but at the same time does not want to be a member of the new breed because of who is a part of the new breed, that being names like Ethan Carter and Bram and Rob Echoes. And that's why pre-match we're gonna get a word with JB is gonna get a word with the newest member of the feud, Drew Galloway. Don't worry, I'm not going to include everybody. Let me know down in the comment section how many people should be in this feud. Should I just keep adding people? Should I subtract some people? What direction should this feud go? Should there be swerves? Should there not be swerves? How would you guys go with this? If you were behind the scenes with the book, how would you go with this? Let me know down below. As we continue with the broadcast here tonight. No. We go here. Come on. Where the hell are promos? There it is. Taryn Terrell gets promo time now to talk about her rival, Gail Kim, and how she defeated Velvet Sky for the Knockouts title. Still have a long way to go. Mike Bennett will go up against Rob Echoes. Okay, fine. I'll give Rob a little time. Instead, Bennett will go up against the Monster Abyss. And Abyss gets the win. Now we're here, and out comes Ethan Carter, as Ethan Carter is trying to appeal to Abyss to join TNA's New Breed against the veterans of TNA and destroy the old guard. Yes, it makes more sense for Abyss to stay alone than it does for him to join the New Breed, considering he's one of the, in many ways, considered a founding father of the company. So why would a founding father of the company want to infest the company with a new guard, if it could possibly mean him, and would likely mean him losing his spot? Not possible. He will. Okay, I made a mistake. Made a mistake again. And now we're off. Davey and Eddie get the easy win over, I don't want to say two jobbers, but that's what I'm going to say. Why did I let him go this long? That long, I don't know. This long? Because they can. And I firmly believe that they can. We got the word from one side, now it's time to get the word from the other. With JB standing by, and he talks about EC3, who's off screen, Bram, who's off screen, and Rob Echoes, who's off screen. And then from out of nowhere, EC3 shows up on the ramp, which allows Bram, Echoes, and Eric Young to attack Bobby Roode in the ring and leave Bobby Roode down and out in the ring. And it looks like it looks like they were expecting Roode to talk about them, and when he did, they jumped at the opportunity, particularly EC3 did, to set up the hoax. As now a huge main event will happens tonight, and I will let the game pick the winner, as Bobby Lashley will go one-on-one with Jeff Hardy in the main event tonight on Impact, and in many ways, it could be what leads to one of them gaining the opportunity to face Kurt Angle at our upcoming pay-per-view. How do we do this? I guess let's put the kibosh on this match. We put the kibosh on this match, and then we have the new authority figure of TNA kick off the show and lay out the broadcast, as Mick Foley was named the new authority figure of TNA at One Night Only Champion versus Champions last Sunday night. And the first order of business for the new commissioner is giving Kurt Angle, in his mind, a much-deserved night off. And he also mentions that the main event tonight between Bobby Lashley and Jeff Hardy could in fact help determine who will be challenging next for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I changed my mind again because there's no room on the show. Tigre Uno, Jimmy Rave. Pre-show, and our last pre-show match involves my other friend, Max Justice, going up against a member of TNA's Garden Changers, Eric Young. And now we jump into it. It's time for this week's episode of Impact Wrestling, as we kick the show off with Tigre Uno on the pre-show defeating Jimmy Rave in what is considered, in many ways, Jimmy Rave's tryout, just like the next match is considered Max Justice. If this was a tournament based on who did better to gain the to gain the contract, Jimmy Rave would have done better leaps and bounds and would have definitely gotten the contract, but that's not how this is working. Because unfortunately for Max Justice, an 18 doesn't get you a contract with a company. Now we head to the opening segment of the show, as the old-fashioned theme song that we used to hear all the time back in 2008 and 2009, that being the theme song of the new authority figure, Mick Foley. And I will say this, though in WWE 2015 I did think about bringing back names like Shelton Benjamin and Charlie and Carlito and Crime Time and these people, but in that case I thought of it first, but I gotta credit WWE where WWE deserves it. I had no inclination of bringing back Mick Foley as the guy, or even thinking that Mick Foley could even possibly be remotely involved with TNA in this season, even though yes, I'm in charge and I can sign whoever I want. I just didn't think I would have a role for Mick to fill. Also, I kind of thought he was signed by WWE, but I guess not. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to mention it again. Mick mentions being the authority figure, thanks Dixie for the opportunity, makes the match between Gail Kim and Velvet Sky, and also books the match between Lashley and Jeff Hardy, and this brings out the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and that's when Mick tells Kurt to keep an eye on the match between Jeff and Lashley tonight, as one of those two men, maybe, who goes against you in 3 weeks on pay-per-view at TNA at the next One Night Only. But for right now, you get the night off. By the way, an 81 and an 80, that is the best ratings-wise angle that I've gotten since I started in TNA 3 months ago, or 2 months ago. But either way, our first match of the night has Gail Kim defeating Velvet Sky, which means there is no doubt about it, Gail Kim one-on-one with Velvet Sky at the with Taryn Terrell at the pay-per-view for the Knockouts title. Yes, Velvet Sky is still guaranteed a rematch, but one way or another, Gail will be going against the TNA Knockouts champion at the next One Night Only show. And that's basically what her promo was about, as she says she will be bringing back the Knockouts title, and it doesn't matter if it's Taryn Terrell or Velvet Sky. Either way, after the next One Night Only, the Knockouts title comes home. And now we move forward. Quick and easy match. I have nothing really to say about this other than Manic. I haven't used Manic that much to begin the year, so I just wanted to get him on the show. And though in the game's mind, this was a poor match, a 61 in-ring performance for Manic is pretty good. Now we move up as Drew Galloway gets his pre-match interview with Jeremy Borash, as Drew basically says he doesn't know how he ended up on the TNA original side or the veteran side for TNA against the likes of EC3, Eric Young, Rob Echoes, and Bram, and then he starts thinking, oh wait, I just told you the reason why I'm on their side and not on the side of the New Breed. Because I hate each and every one of those guys, and if they think that the way to get past the likes of Jeff Hardy and Lashley and Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode is to take them out, boy oh boy, do they gotta be smoking something good. Because you don't take them out, you beat them for their spot. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do it the right way. I'm not going to do it their way. Speaking of that, Drew Galloway goes up against Bram, and unlike the pay-per-view, Drew Galloway defeats his opponent, and Galloway gets the win in a solid match against one of the secondary members of the New Blood for TNA. And now we move to the Dollhouse tag team match with Taryn Terrell and Marty Bell against Jamie Jamison and Rena Pink. Rena Pink, as Rena Pink and Jamison didn't do that terrible. They did bad, but they didn't do terrible. But either way, Taryn Terrell tells Gail Kim, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It doesn't matter if it's a ladder match. It doesn't matter if we go back and do our series of matches that we did in the past. Gail, you need to realize one thing, and that is, with this title, I am the best woman this company has to offer, and this title proves exactly that, and I will prove it the next time I see you in the ring, when I beat you just like I did at One Night Only, crowning a champion versus champion last Sunday. Much like the Manic match, both Mike Bennett and Abyss never got used in the first couple months, so I just wanted to get him on the show, and this is the best way I could think of to do it. Speaking of Abyss, and speaking of TNA Old versus TNA New, EC3 comes down and tries to recruit Abyss to join up with Bram, Rob Echoes, EC3, and Eric Young, and Abyss just walks away. Like I mentioned earlier, Abyss needs to be a lone wolf. Now we move forward as the Wolves, who continue to improve in-ring performance-wise, I should say, against Jody Christopherson and Mr. Sarah, as the Wolves get the win in a pretty quick fashion against the no-names, I guess you could call them. Thank God this didn't main event, and thank God I cut their time, as Bobby Roode defeats DJZ, yes, in a solid match, but not anywhere near as glorious as I thought it was going to be. See what I did there? Now we head to the now we head outside as Jeremy Borash is standing by with Bobby Roode, and Roode talks about the developing tension and the developing rivalry between the old guard of TNA, guys like him and Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy, and the uproar that has been caused by guys like Ethan Carter III, Rob Echoes, and their cohorts. And he talks about how it's a traditional thing in wrestling to want to move up. But what Drew Galloway said was true. You want it. You don't have to injure us. You don't have to take us out. Come get it. Come beat me for my spot, because I worked my ass off to get here. I wasn't handed anything in TNA. I worked my ass off for everything that I have, and I've earned in this company. And if Ethan Carter and Bram and Rob Echoes want to bypass that, that's fine. But we're not going down without a fight. I can guarantee you that. Speaking of a fight, Ethan Carter comes out on the rampway, and he just has a stare down with Bobby Roode. As soon as Bobby Roode starts making his way up the ramp towards Ethan Carter, Bobby is jumped by Eric Young, Rob Echoes, and Bram. And as it turns out, those guys, it was all a plan. It was an ambush to try and take Bobby Roode out. And it looks like it might have worked, as Bobby is down and out at the end of the segment. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like Bobby is too hurt, but he is pissed off. Or he will be, at least. He will be pissed off if he isn't already. And now we move to the main event as Jeff Hardy goes up against Lashley, and Jeff adds something to his stock to possibly be the one who challenges Kurt Angle for the TNA World Title at the next One Night Only event later this month, as Jeff defeats Lashley in the main event tonight on Impact Wrestling. And with this show, we increased our popularity in 27 regions with a final rating of a 70. I'm honestly surprised that, number one, the show did as well as it did, and second, that it was as well received as it was, because I did not expect, with the fact that no segment got a 70, heck, nothing got above a 69. Oh wait, it was probably the Mick Foley stuff. It was probably Mick Foley and Kurt Angle's stuff. Well, in that case, thank you to both Kurt Angle and Mick Foley. And also, I would appreciate it from you. Let me know in the comment section below, what was your favorite part of the show? What was your least favorite part of the show? And do you think that I should change the direction for TNA? Or is TNA of old versus TNA new the right way to go and the best way to possibly stabilize the company? But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time, later.